A key to Sung Yul No's victory at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans this past week was a great knockdown shot he hit at the very difficult par 4 16th when he really needed to keep the ship righted and keep the pressure off him down the stretch. Sure. They're going to show us how to hit it.
Yeah, he came to the 16th hole. Pin was tucked just over the water. He had 122 yards. The wind was kind of quartering him a little bit off the right and into his face. He hit it in there about 3 feet and made birdie to keep his momentum going. Made a nice par at 17. But let's talk about the knockdown shot a little bit. Let's start out by making sure we're clear on what we're trying to do with it, and that's obviously to keep it low. We're usually fighting the wind. And generally, knockdown shots are most effective with the clubs in your bag from the 7-iron, 8-iron, 9 up through your wedges. Okay. So, to hit the ball a little bit lower, what's the first thing we need to understand? Well, we've got our little magnet here that we're going to stick on the club head, and as you can see, when I hold this shaft pretty much vertical, I'm not tipping it one way or the other.
What iron have you got in your hand?
I have the pitching wedge here, okay? Sorry about that. I've got the wedge in my hand, and as you can see, when I hold the shaft fairly vertical, you can see what the trajectory of the ball will initially be, more or less. So how do we hit it a little bit lower?
A little forward press.
We get a little forward lean shaft when we make contact with the ball. As you can see, as we move the shaft forward, the magnet starts to go down a little bit and we get a lower trajectory. There's a couple different ways we can do this, okay? Number one, the first thing everybody has the tendency to want to do when they hit this knockdown shot, and there's a few different ways to hit the knockdown, so let's not say that we're absolute with it, but we need to make sure that to a certain extent we move the ball back in our stance a little bit. If we move the ball back for us right-handers back towards our right foot, and we keep our hands in the same position, obviously we're going to get, when we set up, a little bit more of initial shaft lean, and it's going to help us when we come down into the ball to maintain that and kind of keep that angle. It's easier when the ball is back to make contact with our hands forward with the ball. Some people like to keep the ball in the same place in their stance and just move forward a little bit more as they swing to get the hands. Adam Scott's very good at that. You'll see when he goes down and through the ball, his head tends to move forward, as does his body. Some people, like Tiger, stay back a little bit more and just let the hands go. But like I said, we have to make sure more than anything that we have this shaft, when we hit the ball, leaning toward the target a little bit. Now, the second thing we want to do to make sure we hit this shot successfully is we don't want to hit this shot hard. The harder we hit this shot, what happens? The ball does what? It spins more. When the ball spins more and you're hitting into the wind, what's it going to do? It's going to shoot up in the air a little bit higher, and that kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do with that shot. So we need to make sure that when we're hitting a knockdown shot, we're not trying to really get down there and hit with the hands forward and really smother it, because number one, you might not get a good centeredness of hit. And number two, the harder you hit it, like I just said, the more the ball is going to tend to spin and shoot up in the air.
So maybe distance-wise, one more club, but to make sure you hit it easier.
At least. At least one more club, if not two.
Wow.
That's and this is a shot that if you don't practice it on the range, you really should, because there's a chance that there's, that'll be your play more times than not, to hit a knockdown shot as your approach shot.
And a very good idea, particularly on a day when you go out and it's going to be windy. And you'll know that when you get to the practice range.
Absolutely right.
Great stuff. We'll be back next week with more great stuff right here on Golf Center on WHHI Sports.